Welcome back. Again, my name is Mad Cujo. Today I'm going to be going over a little bit more to do with the Warcraft movie. I had some requests to go over some of the characters in more detail. So what I'm going to be doing is going over Anduin Lothar and Khadgar today, and then I'm going to be doing a part 2 with more of the Horde characters. Now, the lore that I'm going to be talking about has more specifically to do with the game than the movie. So you'll notice some of the stuff I tell you is different in the movie, but this is the lore we have to work with. So I'm going to just give you some more specifics about the backstories of these two characters today. When telling the story of the first Orc invasion, Anduin Lothar is a very important character. He served a huge role in the story itself. Anduin Lothar was known as the Lion of the Alliance. He grew up with his two best friends, Medivh and Lane Wrynn, who would later become the ruler of the kingdom. They grew up together, they adventured together, they saw the world together. These two men were very, very close to Anduin Lothar. So because of this, when Medivh actually betrays the kingdom, there's a couple of things that happen that I think actually have a lot to do with that friendship. First of all, Anduin Lothar in the story is the person who recognizes that something is off. I believe that at this point a lot of people expect weird behavior out of the Guardian. They don't really understand magic. They don't really understand a kind of guy that would spend that much time studying magic. He's kind of a recluse. People haven't seen him in years. But Anduin still knows his friend a lot. When he sees his friend acting strangely, when he sees this strange trance, he becomes concerned, probably both for his friend and also curious as to what his friend's been up to while he's been gone, while he's been missing. He actually goes to the apprentice of Medivh, which of course is Khadgar. At this time in the story, Khadgar has actually been the apprentice for some time. He's been learning a lot from Medivh and really, really appreciates the opportunity to study under the Guardian. Lothar approaches Khadgar and asks him to report back to him whatever Medivh is up to, whatever is happening with Medivh, if he sees anything suspicious or strange or dangerous. And Khadgar appropriately says that he, of course, will report back something to Lothar that a friend needs to know. Khadgar is aware of their friendship and doesn't want to say that he wouldn't tell him something if he needed to tell a friend, but that also his allegiance is to Medivh, his master. So he won't betray him either. Which, of course, Lothar understands this and lets that go. Of course, when Khadgar does come back and tells Lothar that things are amiss, that something did happen, and describes this trance again, Lothar, of course, immediately believes him, having seen something similar. He immediately takes up arms, calls his men, and leads a charge to Karazhan to handle the situation. So at this point, the story is actually very different than what they did with the movie. Of course, in the movie, the golem crushed Medivh. His own creation toppled and killed him in the fight that he was having against Khadgar and Lothar. In the original story, Lothar and Khadgar are fighting him, and Khadgar is able to stab Medivh in the heart, which allows Lothar to move in and cut the head off of Medivh. This, of course, I believe he had already prepared himself for emotionally. He was a soldier. He knew what he had to do to protect the kingdom. I don't think that made it easy for him, but he wasn't going to not do it. This is a defining moment for Lothar, and certainly not even close to the end of the First War, but it's a big step. Anduin Lothar, unfortunately, would not have the opportunity to see the end of the first invasion. He would die at the hands of Ogrim Doomhammer in a single combat with him, his head being smashed by the Doomhammer itself by the end of the fight. The orcs thought that this would disperse the mighty armies that Lothar commanded, that his own fervor was what pushed the Alliance armies so hard, which allowed them to fight so well against them. And they felt that once he was dead, the human armies would fall apart. This was not to be true. Lothar's second in command would take over, and they would push the orcs back through the portal at least most of them, and end the first conflict. Khadgar's story begins as a young mage studying magic in Dalaran, the great magical city. At this time, the elders of Dalaran had been requesting for quite some time that Medivh take an apprentice from their ranks and teach them so that they could prepare another guardian after him. Medivh refused. In fact, he would not let them in the Tower of Karazhan. He would not let them around him. He didn't really like them very much. This was for a specific reason that I will get to. He eventually did allow Khadgar to be his assistant. Only Khadgar, nobody else. And his assistant, not an apprentice. He would have to earn that. See, he would be cleaning the tower, organizing the books, just taking care of the mages. And this worked for two reasons. One, he didn't trust Khadgar as much as he didn't trust anybody from Dalaran. And two, the tower would be the test. With that kind of magic, of course, it absolutely could be dangerous if you didn't wield a certain amount of power yourself to be there for that long. So the tower would test Khadgar to let Medivh know whether he was ready to learn to be his apprentice or not. In fact, the first day that Khadgar is in the tower with Medivh, he receives a vision of an old man leading an army of humans on a strange planet he's never seen before, very strange world. And he looks at the man and he recognizes that it is him, that he is seeing a future vision of himself. He doesn't get a lot of insight besides just how the tower works and seeing what he will look like in the future, I guess. But he is able to see that. Some time passes and he goes through a few trials with Medivh, eventually even having to fight off orcs when he's surrounded at some point before Medivh is able to get to him and save him, before Medivh is able, or willing rather, to take him as an apprentice. During this time, Khadgar is learning a lot. He's becoming much more powerful. He's in a place that is empowered as Karazhan is, and he's being taught by one of the greatest mages in the entire world, Medivh. So he is growing in strength and wisdom very quickly. However, the magic is also affecting him. He's looking older and older, and just changing so very much as a person during this time. And he most of the time just stays in the tower. He doesn't do a whole lot of interaction besides what Medivh tells him to do, or with Medivh himself, until Anduin Lothar calls upon him. Anduin Lothar approaches him, of course, and asks him to keep an eye on Medivh. He does so, he keeps an eye out, and at one point he actually sees that Medivh seems to have a second shadow, one that looks demonic. He seems to fall into this trance, and this, of course, being a fairly knowledgeable mage at this point, he knows that this means trouble. He recognizes the Fel, he recognizes the demon that is possessing Medivh. And at this point, of course, with the help of Anduin Lothar, Khadgar is able to defeat Medivh, and they go on from there into the war. There's a lot more story when it comes to Khadgar, way more story to come. Because there are more movies to come, I do kind of want to hold off on that for now. We're going to end that here. As I've mentioned before, there is so much lore out there for World of Warcraft, so much content to get into if you want. If you do want to know more about World of Warcraft, or just about Khadgar, or anything else World of Warcraft related as far as the stories, I do have two YouTubers that I would recommend for you to check out. One is Nobble87. His videos are fantastic. He shows the references as to where he gets each part of the lore, because a lot of it is from different games, or the card games, or something like that. He brings it all together and tells the story very nicely. The other one is Doran's Movies. Again, very high quality videos. They do a great job telling these stories, and honestly, I have learned so much by watching those, and I hope you guys enjoy those as well. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe and share this video. I would love to have more people see it and get some more feedback. If you do have feedback, more comments, or or recommendations for future videos, please let me know. I do plan the next one to be a game that my wife and I play. I hope you guys will enjoy that. It should be a lot of fun. Thanks.